I feel that probably very few people that listen to this podcast have heard about bioregulators. So I'd love for you to just define what is a bioregulator.
So peptides are small proteins. GLP-1s are peptides. The bioregulators are a subset of peptides in that they are at most 4 amino acids long. They actually are able to cross the cell membrane, cross the nuclear membrane, and bind to your DNA and affect the way your DNA expresses. It is the ultimate epigenetic switch. And what it does is it restores your DNA's ability to produce certain proteins as it did in a more youthful expression. What they can do is they can help to restore function back to the system. So I've seen things like liver enzymes normalize, but always when we're also doing everything else. So again, no silver bullet.
Nathalie, I'm so honored you came here all the way from Toronto to join us in Los Angeles today.
I'm honored that you've invited me. This is so exciting. I mean, not to mention the fact the weather here is first of all, it's a beautiful setting where you are.
Thank you.
And it's a gorgeous day, leaving the cold.
Yeah, I was going to say, what was it like in Toronto this morning?
Gross. At 5:30 a.m. when I got in the cab, yesterday we got that snow that was supposed to be rain, and then it flash froze. So
that's the worst. I know. I remember when I lived in Minnesota.
Yeah,
that happening.
There's a reason why people live in this part of the world.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, it's just weather, as they say, and I get to do amazing things like this.
Yeah,
so.
Well, I was so. First of all, I was honored to be on your podcast. So thank you so much for having me. We had a great conversation.
I can't wait to release that.
Oh,
yes.
Thank you. And I'm so glad that you're here to be on mine because you've been talking about this world of longevity for a long time now. And one of the original people that kind of, got some of the newer thought process around longevity out there to the public, I think. And so tell me a little bit about your story. How'd you get into this world and how'd you start talking about it on social media?
Well, it's funny. As somebody asked me the other day, so how'd you pivot to longevity?
Yeah,
because, I started off as a holistic nutritionist,
right.
And then I moved into the biohacking space, and then I pivoted to longevity. And they're like, well, how'd you start in longevity? And I said, well, a big part of that is just getting older.
Yes.
And you start to focus on different things.
Yes.
And to be perfectly honest, like biohacking is this. It's kind of a hot and cold thing, right?
Yeah.
It's amazing and it's short-sighted sometimes, and sometimes it doesn't go deep enough, and it doesn't. And it's always going to be about the person who's really talking about it. The longevity space for me was an opportunity to pull back from biohacking, and we get to put our arms around so many other things.
Absolutely.
Right?
And that's why I love it so much.
Yeah, and we're bringing in functional medicine, because if functional medicine isn't part of that, if it doesn't lay the foundation for biohacking, you're spending a lot of money and doing all kinds of things that A, could be wasteful, B, could be harmful. It's like this whole idea of if people are not spending time removing toxins or clearing out their system or removing trauma or whatever the case may be, you can bring a lot of these biohacks in. They're either not going to land or they're not going to do what they're supposed to do.
Right. Absolutely. It's so true. I mean, I think people want to jump to the quick, easy fix right off the bat. Like, what cold plunge should I buy? I hear that question all the time. Like, you have a lot to do before you buy a cold plunge. Let me say.
Yes, you're hanging out on the ceiling.
Exactly. We need to have, nutrition optimized. We need to fix your metabolic health. We need to, regulate your nervous system. And if you start cold plunging prior to that, it can cause more harm than good for some people, right? And so there's a lot of nuance to biohacking. And I'm not negative about the biohacking movement for many reasons. Number one, there's a lot of things in biohacking that are helpful. It's just the way it's presented sometimes can get a little bit
absolutely.
Yeah. And so in this longevity space, you mentioned like foundationally, functional medicine has to be the foundation, right?
Yeah.
Could you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's because functional medicine allows us to get insight into what is happening in the body right now. Right. So we need several different perspectives. We need to understand where are we at this time. We need to look at even things like genetics. Genetics fits into functional medicine. And not that genetics has been misused and abused so much over the years. the truth of the matter is it is an important foundational piece of information for us to have. But it also doesn't mean, like, you get all these people running around saying, oh, I have MTHFR, or I have this, or I have that. And it's like, okay, but is it showing up? Yeah. Is it expressing? Because there's so much about genetics we don't know how those genes are expressing. Because, you know, in all that supposed junk DNA that we have, my suspicion, and I think it's played out, is that there are a lot of redundant pathways in the body. The human body does not rely on a single pathway to get anything done.
Exactly.
It's far too smart for that.
Right.
And so that a good genetic panel gives us a great backdrop, but then it has to be overlaid with labs and blood work and functional testing like you're doing. You know, I just had the pleasure of getting a tour of your clinic here, and you're doing all this functional testing to really understand where are you now.
Absolutely.
Right. And then understanding a person's toxic load is going to be critical as well. Like, do we need a TPE? Do we need EBU? How much of that do we need? So as the regenerative medicine is really coming into its own, all of this laying of the foundation is going to be critical, because, you know, renovating a kitchen in a house that's about to fall over might not be the best investment resources.
It's so true. I mean, I think that to your point, we discover so much in the testing that we do that is definitely not evident to the patient because they're not seeing symptoms. Symptoms are so lagging in what's really going on under the hood, but also not evident to practitioners like physicians as well looking at the patient, because once again, like, you can only see what you can see, right? And so the amount of testing that we do gives us so much more in-depth knowledge about what's going on. And there's so much more testing coming out over the next year. In fact, you know, we were just talking the last podcast episode I did about deep cardiovascular analysis. We're doing full body toxin testing, like you were talking about, testing for over 100 different toxins. And we discover all sorts of stuff that you would have never known. Exposure to glyphosate and other, you know, environmental toxins that are definitely proven to be associated with things like Parkinson's, Alzheimer's disease, et cetera. And yeah, you're not going to know unless you go looking for it.
No, but I think what's really exciting alongside the testing is that there's so much more we can do about it.
Yes, that's
true. That's where conventional medicine isn't equipped, right? Because they're not trained, and the system that they are functioning within is not enabled to get into to doing anything that isn't showing up as a symptom.
Right.
And so by the time symptoms are showing up, as we both know, this has been going on for a really long time. I mean, decades. That is a credit to the genius of the human body.
Yes.
Right? How much it can kind of cobble together.
Yes.
And keep going and keep going. It's robbing Peter to pay Paul, but you're still doing what you're doing. And by the time you feel it, the wheels have come off the bus. And so it's so important for people who really want to live a long, vital life to get access to this, looking at what's happening, what's brewing under the hood. Never mind what's happening. It's what's brewing under the hood.
Yes, absolutely. And to your point, functional medicine is so important because, you know, I had Jeffrey Bland on this podcast, and he basically described functional medicine many years ago. All of these things are brewing because of some root causes that we know what they are. And you can test for them now, and you can do things about it. And that's going to prevent all sorts of problems in the future. And so it's so important to understand where your biology is now and not wait for the Western medical system to start treating every symptom with a pill or with a surgery. You know, that system was built for a reason. It's to get you out of a disastrous situation, like an overwhelming infection. It was all built out of infections and antibiotics, right? That was kind of the root of the Western medical system. But there is a new system developing, one where we optimize health at this moment. And that's a completely different system. And that's the one that you talk about a lot on your podcast, and you've become an expert on, which is using natural biological signals that we've used since the dawn of humanity that over our extended lifespan now are not as powerful as they used to be because of aging, right? And so can we talk about some of those signals, and, you know, what are the different categories of these signals as you look at them?
So we're talking about peptides and bioregulators now, right? So this is a fascinating area that has really, I mean, it's been around for a long time, right? The bioregulators were, if you will, discovered, studied, and expanded upon over the last 3 to 4 decades in Russia. And so the thing is, Russia and the Western world are not always the best of friends. We don't, the flow of information is not super smooth all the time. And so they're over there doing their thing. The Western world is over here doing its thing. And it's a whole area of health optimization that's really evolved separately from everything that we're aware of here. The other aspect of peptides, which are these other small molecules that also have been around for quite a long time. The bodybuilding community probably were the first, the ultimate biohackers. This is the third
podcast today that we've talked about the bodybuilding community because they did.
They stop at nothing.
They stop at nothing, and they did the experiments on themselves. They were the first biohackers, right?
Absolutely, 100%.
And we've learned so much from them, right?
Yeah.
Nandrolone, peptides, even like we were talking about using EPO and some of these other citrulline and arginine for blood flow enhancement. They were doing all this stuff decades ago.
Oh, yeah. It's what to do and how not to do it sometimes, right? From the body. I mean, those guys, you got to tip your hat to them. Exactly. Them and the elite athletes, right? Exactly. These are populations of people who the stakes are so high, they will stop at nothing to achieve their goals. And it has at times turned around and bitten them in the butt. I mean, there aren't too many centenarian bodybuilders floating around, which is actually in and of itself a very interesting comment on what it really takes to live a really long time.
That's so true.
It's a different topic. But going back to the peptides and bioregulators, so they've been around for a long time. They've really been bubbling up into the mainstream. And I would say bioregulators, if we talk not even mainstream, but like the early adopters of mainstream, it's been the last couple of years. Like I've been talking about bioregulators now for not even that long, but let's say 4 years.
Okay.
When I started talking about them, hardly anybody knew. Now, every time I turn around, somebody's talking about bioregulators. And
well, that's probably because of, what happens is you get into this field of what you're talking about. But I could tell you, I feel that probably very few people that listen to this podcast have heard about bioregulators. And so I learned about them through you, brand new, even just like a year ago. So I'd love for you to just define what is a bioregulator, first of all.
So let's define a peptide and then we'll define a bioregulator because they're related, right? So peptides are small proteins. And the peptides that people may have heard about, the BPC-157, those beautifully named compounds, the BPC-157 or the TB-500 or the thymosin alpha-1, GHK-Cu is another one, MOTSC is another one, people. So these are all tiny proteins. They're 50 amino acids or less, and they are signaling proteins that bind to receptors on your cells and initiate cascades. Very often they are native to the body. So they are fractions of proteins that are naturally occurring in the body. GLP-1s are peptides. Yeah. Insulin is a peptide. So we've all heard of peptides. The bioregulators are a subset of peptides in that they are at most 4 amino acids long.
So they're tiny, tiny.
2 to 4 amino acids long. Okay. Your other peptides can be as long as 50 amino acids long. And I mean, it depends who you talk. Some people will say, no, well, anything under 100 amino acids, potato, whatever. They're bigger, small peptides, and the bioregulators are the tiniest small peptides.
Yeah, and it seems a little bit arbitrary how they came up with the 50 number. Is that right? Because it's really...
Yeah, I don't really know how they came up with it. And there's something that's saying anything under 40. I think it's going to get into regulatory space where they're considering this a biologic and not. So that's muddy waters I don't even want to go in.
Right.
But to answer your question about the bioregulators, so we're talking about 2 to 4 amino acids, so the tiniest of the tiny proteins, and they don't act on receptors on the cell. They actually are able to cross the cell membrane, cross the nuclear membrane and bind to your DNA and affect the way your DNA expresses.
Okay.
It is the ultimate epigenetic switch. And what it does is it restores your DNA's ability to produce certain proteins as it did in a more youthful expression. So we refer to it very often as regeneration at a cellular level of tissues, glands, and organs. Now, is it a magic bullet? Are you going to take this bioregulator and all of a sudden your heart's going to be the heart that you had when you were 3? Heck no. Because what the bioregulator, the way that they work is they work to bring the body back to homeostasis. So it's not looking to reverse your age, although we are saying, depending on the test you're using, we are seeing some biological age reversal using the bioregulators. But what they can do is they can help to restore function back to the system. So I've seen things like liver enzymes normalize. I've seen thyroids come back into balance. But always when we're also doing everything else. So again, no silver bullet, but sometimes that missing piece that allows the body to kind of recover in a different way.
So these are molecules that are so tiny they can go straight through the cell membrane, right into the nucleus, and bind to the DNA and turn on certain DNA like methylation does?
So they have so the way this all works, right? You know, you've got your amino acids and they have a partner, right? And so it somehow affects the histones so that the DNA will unwind and present a binding site.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Yeah.
It's really fascinating. And the Russians did like incredible computer modeling around this when they first figured this out.
Yeah.
What Professor Kavinson, who discovered these, talks about is when he first kind of got his eyes on these things or figured this out, he noticed that they occur in every single life form. Mother Nature carries things through every single life form. There's usually a reason that it's pretty important.
Right.
So the bioregulators are essentially naturally occurring even in foods. And a lot of people will argue. I just had a comment on a YouTube video I recently released where it's like, well, you don't even bother taking them because peptides can't be taken orally. And I'm like, well, actually, that's not true. Here's the way the body breaks down proteins. The enzymes don't go in and just indiscriminately chop everything up into single amino acids. There are sequences that are respected. And that's because of the terminal ends around them so that the cleavage sites are predetermined, right?
Right.
And so there are peptide transporters in the gut lumen that are specialized for pulling these peptides out and bringing them from the gut into the circulation.
I see. Okay, so these are oral?
So they can be.
They can be oral. They can be injected as well?
Yeah. So you've got, bioregulators. So we have bioregulators. Now let's separate them out.
Yes.
We have the natural bioregulators that have been extracted from animal tissues and organs.
Okay.
And then we have the synthetic version.
Okay.
So this is where that amino acid chain has been identified, the one that does the most work, let's say, and it can now be recreated or resynthesized in a lab. And it's really interesting because when you get to the world where you only have 2 to 4 amino acids to work with, it turns out that they're actually really hard to synthesize.
Why is
because
that?
it's the way that they're oriented on a 3D plane. So you can have 2 bioregulators that are the same 2 amino acids, but they will act completely differently because of the way that they're arranged geometrically.
So interesting.
It's really fascinating. I mean, it's really fascinating, right? And so one of them in particular, I think it's Vilon, V-I-L-O-N, is really tough. And yet it is one of the most powerful, Kavinson called them geroprotective compounds out there. So Vilon is an immune compound, and he did studies on transgenic mice that were prone to develop HER2 breast cancer, so mammary tumors.
Sure.
And he did experiments with using epitalon, which is the pineal gland bioregulator, and Vilon.
So epitalon is a bioregulator as well, because I've always heard of this as a peptide.
It is a peptide, but it's a bioregulator.
It's a small chain. It's
4 amino acids.
4 amino acids. Okay, got it.
So it is a bioregulator. It is the synthetic version of the pineal gland bioregulator.
Yes.
We're gonna have even more fun with names in a minute, but before I do that, with those transgenic mice, what he discovered is that both epitalon and Vilon reduced the number of tumors, and when they did get tumors, they would be smaller.
Wow.
Now, he never got to the point where he repeated those experiments in humans, but just really interesting that in mice, they were so powerful and had real powerful anti-tumor effects. And epidolon, we know, has major effects on the immune system, and Villon does as well.
Okay. And so we know that through human studies or through...
So we know. So here are the other studies that he did a lot of human studies. So here's
he did?
So here's the cool thing, right? Yeah. When you're a 20-something-year-old guy in the army in Russia, and the big guys come in one day and say, "Look, here's the thing. The cosmonauts are coming back from space, a hot mess. The nuclear submarine guys are coming back from their missions, a hot mess. And we're really worried about all these weapons that other people might develop. So you need to figure out a way to regenerate people. And here's the deal. You get as much money as you need. You get as much lab animals as you need. And when you're ready to test on humans, we have factories filled with people in Siberia."
Wow.
And so he did. And so some of his most seminal studies, and these are studies you could never, like nobody would have the budget to do them again, right? But he literally had one study where he used a form of the pineal gland bioregulator that is called epithalamin. So here's where we have fun with names.
Yeah.
Every bioregulator has at least 2 names. And the name determines the form.
Okay.
So epitalon is the synthetic version of the pineal gland bioregulator.
Sure.
Endolutin is the name of the natural form of that very same pineal gland bioregulator.
Okay.
Epithalamin is now yet a third version of the pineal gland bioregulator. This is an extract from pineal glands of animals that's been prepared for intramuscular injections.
Okay.
You couldn't find that outside of Russia. I don't even know if they still make them. Right? But that is the form that he used in his studies on humans.
Got it.
So he had a control group of people that got a shot of polyvitamins, they call them. So they got a vitamin shot. And then the other group of people got the pineal gland epithalamin. And so what he found is that after 12 years, he had about a third the mortality rate in the epithalamin group than he did in the polyvitamin group.
Okay.
He then, and these people were, I want to say they were 55 to 65 years old. He then upped the ante and went to an older population, so 75 to 85-year-olds. And now he only studied these guys for 6 years. And he had 3 groups. He had his control group. He had his group that got the epithalamin, and now the third group got epithalamin, and they also got thymolin, which is the thymus gland bioregulator.
Okay.
Now, we both know that a dysfunctional immune system is fundamentally what's going to take us out.
Absolutely, right.
Whether it takes us out young or old, it's the failing of the immune system that leaves us open to all the things that happen. And that group of people, and I may have my numbers messed up, but I'm pretty sure that last group of people, maybe they're the ones that had the third mortality. The people that only got epithalamin had half the mortality of the control group. The control group, 88% were dead at the end of the 6 years.
Yeah.
These were older people.
So it was actually better to just have only the epithalamin by itself?
No, the epithalamin with the thymus.
With the thymus. Okay, got it. So those two bioregulators together reduced...
Are magic.
Yeah.
And he was looking at mortality, right? He couldn't look at longevity.
Yes.
Because you'll never finish that study.
Never finish the study, right? Exactly.
So he looked at mortality. He had the people with the epithalamin who got the epithalamin and the thymolin didn't die as fast.
And so what is the mechanism from why they did not die? Was it less chronic disease? What was geroprotective about that combination?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. So certainly on the epithalamin front, and I had a presentation where I had a whole table where we presented this. They had their immune system was better, their sleep got better, their melatonin production was normalized. That's one of the hallmarks of the pineal gland bioregulator, is it normalizes melatonin production.
Yes.
Now notice it normalizes, doesn't increase.
Right.
It brings it back to kind of like that of someone who's about a middle age.
Okay.
Right? Their bone health was better. Now, the other thing that the pineal gland bioregulator does is it activates telomerase. Well, if we help to restore the length of those telomeres on the end of the DNA, that fundamentally increases our Hayflick
limits. Right?
limits.
Right.
And so our body can rejuvenate better. So, and epitalon, the pineal gland bioregulator, we also know has effect on the immune system. Now, the thymus gland bioregulator, if it helps to restore function to the thymus gland, is going to put it. So bottom line, they had a better immune system. They had better quality of life. Overall, they just were healthier.
So these Russian studies, they were published in Russian from what I've read, and they weren't really ever translated into English.
Well, some were. So now there's more and more that have been translated. And what I want to say is a lot of the studies that he did, he would come out the other side saying, wow, this is amazing. And we need to do more work to develop these into drugs, right? Because these are, if you will, a very, it's a low potential of what this could potentially bring.
Right. It's like the first.
I think even he had very few illusions. But there's they have an institute in St. Petersburg in Russia called the Institute of Gerontology and Bioregulation. And there's a branch of that institute that works with people with eye diseases. And one of the eye diseases that they address is retinitis pigmentosa. Now, going back to our genetics at the beginning, this is a genetic condition where your field of vision narrows and narrows and narrows until you eventually become blind.
Right.
Well, they can stop it. They actually can even reverse it to a point.
Okay.
So now, I will say they're using bioregulators. I'm sure they're using lots of other stuff as well, but the bioregulators are central to that therapy.
Oh, interesting. And so are these bioregulators, so this is one category of them, right? Like the pineal gland bioregulators?
So there's 21.
21 different bioregulators.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
What are some of the other ones? Some of the other
So we have, obviously, let's see how many I can rattle off in 10 seconds here. We have the one for the thyroid, the adrenals, the ovaries, the testes, the liver, the pancreas, the stomach, the heart, the blood vessels, the brain and central nervous system, bone marrow, cartilage. Cartilage is fascinating because we need elastin and collagen in every single tissue of our body. Right? Your blood vessels can't be healthy if you stop making collagen. They get stiffer. Right? Cardiovascular disease. Kidneys, bladder, bones, I think. Bone marrow.
So basically like every
all
system
the
of the
major
body.
Organs.
Okay. And the idea of taking a bioregulator is to rejuvenate these organs?
Essentially. So it's to drive rejuvenation of the organ, right? And so the way that the bioregulators are taken is not in perpetuity because remember, it's a signal. So we will take it for anywhere from 10 to 30 days. Depending on our age, stage, and state of health, we might repeat that every 3 months. We might repeat it every 6 months.
Got it.
We might take it for 2 months. A lot of the studies that he did also was side by side with conventional medicine. So they would find that, for example, there was one with COPD patients where the COPD patients, some of them would get just the conventional treatment. And then the others would get the conventional treatment with, I think it was the lung and maybe the blood vessel. I don't remember the exact combination. They found that the people who got the bioregulator with their conventional treatment had better results and lasted longer.
Are they doing new studies now on some of these bioregulators here in the United States?
So the only person I know of who's formally doing a study, now I will say that there's some of the big schools, like Stanford has done some research on bioregulators, and they've done a really cool research study on GHK, which is not a bioregulator, but another peptide. But there's a guy by the name of Dr. Bill Lawrence who was working with Cavinson hand in hand until he passed away about 2 years ago.
Oh, he just passed away 2 years ago?
Yeah,
Okay.
And you would think of a very ripe old age, but he got very sick. And so, lots of theories around that. We're not going to go there. But anyway.
Typical Russian conspircy theories?
Well, I don't know. Just not even going to go there. But bottom line is Bill was doing he was doing age reversal studies. So the first study he started was he had 100 people, and all they did was give them bioregulators for about a year. Nobody was told to change anything or do anything differently than normal. And he was able to show that after a year, with the exception of maybe 3 people, everybody's biological age got better.
Wow.
As determined by their telomeres.
Got it. So he did telomere testing for all of them,
He did telomere testing. He then went on to continue and do DNA methylation testing as well. But the 3 people, and this will go back to the beginning of our conversation, the 3 people who did not see a reversal in their age as determined by the telomere length were people who are under severe stress.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
The power of the nervous system is really another one. It's right up there with toxins, I think. It'll undo the best therapies that you've got.
Right, absolutely. So these new studies that are being done, you said they were done here in Stanford, or where can someone find these studies?
So Bill's studies are essentially, it's like, I don't know what the proper term would be. Like, this isn't a controlled this is not a controlled
randomized
controlled trial.
Okay.
This is people who've come to him and who are willing to basically use bioregulators over and like every month in, month out. Like I was in that study for a year and we cycled me through the bioregulators for a whole year. Wherever I had weaknesses, if you will, in my system, we would kind of lean into those systems a little more heavily. For example, for me genetically, I'm predisposed to things like type 2 diabetes, right? I've got a predisposition.
Okay.
My job is to make sure it just never happens.
Yes.
And so if I'm going to do that, then I'm going to change the way I eat. I'm going to make sure that my lifestyle is dialed in. I'm going to watch all these things. And I might cycle through the pancreas bioregulator and the liver bioregulator a couple more times than the average bear.
I see. And Bill, you mentioned, what's Bill's last name?
Lawrence.
Bill Lawrence. And so where can someone work or see Bill Lawrence and his studies? And
so I just outed you, Bill. I'm really sorry.
Yeah.
So he's a tough guy to reach. He now only really takes people on kind of on a concierge basis.
Oh, okay.
And we can talk about it offline if you want.
Got it. No, I'm just super interested in diving deeper into the research on this, just because I feel like it could be a really powerful other tool in the toolbox. And I just wonder, number one, what are the studies that are being done? What are the side effects of something?
None.
That's what I was going to say is like a lot of times when we have natural biological signals, there's no side effects or minimal side effects, right?
So I'll tell you that I've been witnessing this in my communities for the last 4 or 5 years.
Well,
it is, I could count on one hand the number of people who say that they've had a side effect. It just doesn't really happen.
So interesting. And where can people find bioregulators?
So the natural bioregulators, there's definitely a few purveyors. I would say that there's one source in Europe that's producing the raw material, and then you've got a couple of companies that have gotten their hands on them. The place I get them from is a purveyor called Profound Health. They're based in the UK.
Okay.
They're about to start distributing out of the States in January.
Got it.
And the good news with Profound Health is they've got, that whole epithalamic and endolutin, epidyne. They got rid of that. The box says pineal gland bioregulator.
I see.
Liver bioregulator.
So they have all 21 of the ones that you mentioned?
Do.
Oh, good. Okay,
they do.
Good. So if someone is struggling with like their liver health, this could be an adjunct to their...
That's exactly the way to put it, right? And the other thing is the way that we use the bioregulators is very often in stacks. So if I'm having, let's say, an issue with my liver, I'm going to want to make sure that the blood vessels are being taken care of. I might stack the pancreas on there at the same time. If I'm working with someone, for example, who has a cardiovascular issue or they're struggling with blood pressure. So I'm going to sit there and think, okay, well, what are the systems that are involved here? Well, we've got the blood vessels, we have the heart. We'd be silly not to include the kidneys, right? And we may pay attention to the central nervous system a little bit, right? So we start to build this protocol alongside all the other things that you're doing to help support the body in doing the work.
So bioregulators, you're probably combining them with some peptides as well. Is
Sometimes.
that right? Sometimes you do? Okay.
Yeah.
And bioregulators are probably easier just because they're oral.
Well, they're nutritional supplements.
Nutritional supplements, right.
Yeah, if
peptides,
you're using the naturals.
Exactly. Most peptides are injectable. So, and I feel that, people are already on a lot of supplements, but these are more on the treatment side of things. Is that kind of how you think about it?
Yeah. Or, you can almost position it as a nutritional strategy. Like if let's think about how, if you go back in time, how humans would, and frankly, any animal eats organs.
Yes.
Those organs is where these bioregulators come from.
I see. Got it.
There's a reason organs are probably the most nutritionally dense food that we can get our hands on, right? And so that's where they're getting the bioregulators from.
Makes
so
sense.
if we eat liver, now, are you going to get a therapeutic dose? Not so much. Most of us aren't going to eat liver often enough. It might not be healthy for us to eat that much liver.
Or you just can't stand the taste.
Or you can't stand the taste. But, you know, if you look at, very often when we look at these websites where they're selling these those desiccated organs that have been encapsulated,
yeah, I've taken
you're
those
going to see
before.
stories of like transformational
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
health.
Yeah.
Well, what's in there?
Yeah.
Right? You have the bioregulators, you have bioavailable vitamins and minerals in a form that the body can absorb.
Yeah.
I think it's really, I think there's so many cool studies that could be done to really get a handle on what's happening here. But I think that what's fascinating to me about the bioregulators is, as a nutritional supplement, if they're leveraged properly and they're integrated in with a solid functional medicine plan, you can just start to see how the body responds to this in a different way. And I have a few now functional medicine providers that are weaving these bioregulators in their protocols and are getting really nice results.
So interesting. I love this. Do you still see patients yourself as well?
So I'm not a doctor.
I mean, but as a nutritionist.
As a nutritionist, so I only have clients, just so you know.
Clients, right.
I haven't. I kind of stopped a couple of years ago, and I'm starting to itch a little bit. I don't know. I might be getting back into the game sometime, because there's just so much that can be done.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you know, as I interview people like you and learn more, and just in the world of collaborations, right?
Exactly.
And seeing what we can bring to both sides.
Right. The reason I ask is because, you know, we see a ton of patients here at our clinics, and a lot of times we will put them on everything that we have available to us, and then they still hit a brick wall sometimes. I'm thinking of one, you know, we've talked a lot about liver health. I'm thinking of one in particular that is coming very close to, you know, maybe needing a liver transplant because they're just not making any headway with everything that we're doing. We're doing peptides, we're doing, you know, metabolic health programs, really regulating their blood glucose. And I just feel like this is maybe another piece of the puzzle that we might be missing.
I have an idea.
Yeah.
I mean, definitely the bioregulators, but there's another. Have you ever come across a guy by the name of Siggy Clavins?
This patient's already on.
He's already on deliverance.
Yeah.
Well, then I've talked to Siggy about this. I've said that, you know what? I wonder if we layered the liver bioregulator on, if those stubborn ones might move. I don't know the answer.
Right.
I'm not.
It's such a
I'm
big
not
problem.
saying that it will. I'm just saying that it would be really fascinating to.
It'd be fascinating to
and
try.
there's no downside.
Right. And that's the other critical piece of this is it's not like a drug that we're giving them, that there could be a downside to it. So yeah, it's super interesting, this whole world of what's potentially out there. And I've been hearing about bioregulators now through you for quite a while now. And then when you look into the studies all being done in Russia, they have like a mystery around them.
Yeah. Which is not always that appealing to people in your business.
That's the key.
Mystery's not so nice.
Right. But it's definitely a major I would say point of research for people to look into. So I'm so glad for you to kind of bring this to people's forefront of their knowledge. I don't hear a lot of people talking about it, so I'm so glad that you're talking a lot about it. Now, you also have a level of depth of knowledge about peptides. You mentioned a few. What are some of your favorite peptides that you like to talk about?
I mean, look, BPC 157 is probably
that's your go-to.
It's one of them, but it depends, right? Like, what are you dealing with?
Yeah.
Are you dealing with musculoskeletal issues? Then it's going to be BPC 157, maybe thymosin beta 4, maybe, you know, growth hormone secretagogues. If you're dealing with immune issues, well, I'm switching teams. I'm moving over to thymosin alpha 1.
Absolutely.
So I think peptides, like anything else, the question, people will ask me this a lot, like, what's your favorite, or what's your desert island? I'm like, well, it depends. Did I break my leg getting on the desert island, or did I catch a cold on the way?
Exactly. Yeah, I've talked a lot about those particular peptides, but one group of peptides that I find very interesting that I've not talked a lot about is the mitochondrial peptides.
I knew you were going to say that.
MOTSC,
SS31.
Can you give us kind of a break? Are those the two big ones, MOTSC and SS31?
They're the two biggest ones.
Okay.
there's also Humanin.
And Humanin,
right?
That's
so
the third
they're
one.
like a triad.
Okay.
So SS31 is the one that is reparative to the mitochondria, right? It restores the cardiolipin on the mitochondrial membrane. I think the thing about mitochondrial peptides that is becoming much more discussed now, which I'm so excited about, is that if you're not also doing work to restore the mitochondrial membrane, like providing the phospholipids, like making sure that that membrane has what it needs to be healthy, you're gunning an engine that's not ready to be gunned, right?
How do you provide the phospholipids to the mitochondrial membrane?
So I like the Body Bio PC oil, right? Fatty 15 is another really interesting fat. I mean, it sure sounds like it's a big piece of the puzzle if someone is deficient. The cool thing is that you can test.
Yes.
Right? Like there's a really inexpensive fatty acid test that you can do that'll give you your omega-3 to omega-6 ratio. It'll look at your C15 amount. So if you're
What's the name of this test?
Oh, I mean, I was hoping you weren't going to ask me. It's on the tip of my brain.
We'll put it on the show notes.
It's like a $50 test.
Yeah,
it's not even that expensive.
And it's available direct to consumer, right?
It's direct to consumer. Easy peasy. Get the more expensive one, which I think is $55. I don't know. Like it's really. I did a podcast with him a couple of years ago, and it's just fascinating to me how accessible this is and how important it is.
But also fascinating that is available direct to consumer. The solution is there and no one really knows about it.
And it's over the counter.
It's
right?
over
like
the
it's,
counter.
Again,
right?
phospholipids is not expensive.
Right.
You're not going to go wrong with it.
Yeah.
It's easy.
Okay, so you have mitochondrial health issues, which almost everybody has as we age. It's a part of normal aging, I would say. And SS31 is a peptide that you can use to restore the lipid bilayer in conjunction with taking a phospholipid supplement, something like Body Bio or Fatty 15.
Yeah, well, Body Bio and
examples.
Fatty 15 are two different things.
Two different things, right? Exactly.
So what you want to do is give the membranes the healthy fats that it needs to be as flexible as possible, to let in the good stuff and to release the bad stuff. The last thing we want is a stiff membrane.
Right.
And I mean, why am I telling you this? but ultimately, it's about having healthy membranes to allow the body to do what it needs to do.
Yes.
The other piece that I think that's really interesting with mitochondrial health is something that not a lot of people talk about, and this is actually a test I'm going to be offering in my membership community. We're going to do a little experiment.
Okay.
And this is with deuterium.
Tell us about this.
So deuterium is a heavy proton, and we can accumulate it. And think of like if the way that your mitochondria work is, think of it like they're so fascinating.
Yeah,
right?
they are.
You've got this crazy little rotary engine in there that's rotating
making ATP.
2,500 times a second or something, spitting out ATP. These protons or these heavy hydrogen atoms can gum it up. So they get in the way. And where we see deuterium being more of an issue is people with cancer, for example. But the rest of us walking around may inadvertently have relatively high deuterium levels. Certainly as we age, is it possible? So there is a test that you can test your deuterium levels.
I didn't know this.
And if you could test your deuterium levels and you happen to be high and you could drink deuterium depleted water for a couple of months and lower that level, and get your mitochondria healthier and do the membrane work. And then we might do a MOTSC, for example, to kind of rev up the engine.
So MOTSC, that allows that engine to function more optimally?
Yeah. And look, I'm being simplistic here. There's more complexity to it, but that's kind of, those are the buckets I put those peptides into.
Got it.
And so MOTSC has been used by a lot of people. They say that they use it for fat loss, they use it for performance, the whole 9 yards. But I've seen too many people rushing out to buy MOTSC and to do that as their one and done. And it's like everything else. You know what, guys? Make sure that the body is ready for this.
Yeah.
Even if your mitochondria are not working properly because of any number of reasons right now, let's make sure that we follow the steps to bring the body along so that now you can finally tap into these tools that are so powerful.
Yeah.
And SS31 just got given orphan drug status,
Yeah,
right?
it did, right.
Which is going to make it both better and worse. Like
Exactly. Harder to get, but at least it's now FDA approved. And so
yeah, for some things.
For some things, right, exactly, which is incredible. I mean, that shows that there's enough science behind this that shows that it works, that the FDA actually approved it. And I mean, how incredible that it works at a mitochondrial level, like
That's
a drug
insane.
that works at the mitochondrial level is mind-blowing to me.
Yeah.
So SS31, MOTSC, and the Humanin you said was the last one. What's the mechanism of Humanin?
So Humanin I'm not as familiar with, but the thing that's always stuck with me on Humanin is that the reason it's named Humanin is the researcher that discovered it tested it out. He, for whatever reason, was testing it with people who had Alzheimer's.
Oh, okay.
And they became more human.
Wow.
It enabled them to function better.
So
and it's
interesting.
like it brought back their humanity. And so he named it Humanin.
Incredible. That's
so
incredible.
it's part of that triad. And so your knowledgeable peptide practitioner is going to understand how to layer these peptides and how to bring them in order so that you're not putting the cart before the horse. Because like everything else, there's an order of operations here.
Absolutely.
Right? And if you do it in the right order,
you get it right.
Right. And if we go back to bioregulators, if your mitochondria aren't working and you're pounding the bioregulators, you're not going to get the best results.
Right, that's true too.
So this is where functional medicine comes in. It's understanding all the many layers so that the body can do what it can do.
Right. What are the layers? What are the order? And having the tools available for you. Right?
The advantage of the bioregulator is you're not going to do harm. I don't know that that's so true with the mitochondrial peptides sometimes.
For sure. Right?
I think there needs to be a certain degree of caution and knowledge. When
people have adverse reactions with MOTSC and other of these peptides. So you have to be very careful. I always say start with a low dose, go slow. Now I'm going to look into more of the bioregulators as part of the overall story. But it's an incredible world we live in now that there's so much more available to us.
Oh my gosh, yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, it really is amazing. Well, this has been an incredible conversation. Hopefully it's part one of many conversations that we have in the future.
Thank you. I hope so.
I was really, really excited to have you here. So thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure and an honor.
Yeah, and I would love for people, this is just to whet people's appetite. They can hear a lot more from you, from your podcast and your YouTube. So can you tell people how to access that information?
Sure. Yeah. The podcast is Longevity with Nathalie Niddam. Finally renamed it a couple years ago.
And it's one of the top podcasts on health and wellness in Apple Podcasts. I see it there all the time, way up the top.
Thank you. Yeah, it does well in the nutrition category. I stayed out of the medical. I figured I leave the medical category to the doctors. I'll kind of hang it over here. So that's the podcast. My YouTube channel is Nathalie Niddam.
Okay.
And I have a membership community where we talk about a lot of these things. I might even be able to get like an expert like you to come in and answer some questions of my very curious people.
I'd love
to. So all that is natniddam.com is the website. So
fantastic.
Where you can get all the things.
Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.